Hi everyone, my name is Matthew Sue, and it is important to me that I try to help as many people as possible to live a long and healthy life, preventing all cause mortality. And today, what we're going to be talking about in this podcast is improving your quality of life. Now, I know improving your quality of life can be very subjective and people may take very different views on it. For me personally, I like to look at life from a health and wellness perspective almost always. And the analogy I like to make is when you're looking life in a health and wellness perspective, your life is balancing on a platform on a single point. And on this platform, there are three buckets. In these three buckets are your mental well-being, your social well-being, and also your physical well-being. So these three buckets have to be relatively even in order for the platform to not be lopsided and then fall off. And when it falls off, that's when I find myself feeling like I'm being burnt out. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I can't do anything because I just feel like I'm overconsumed with whatever it is going on in my life in terms of the situation. And perhaps you may have felt that way in your life too. So maybe I encourage you to look at life in that health and wellness perspective. And in that health and wellness perspective, if we're looking at that, I like to talk about four concepts. And in these four concepts, it is important to me that I practice these four concepts and I find that they help me live a higher quality of life. And perhaps if you follow one of these concepts and adopt it in your own life, maybe you might find you have your own benefits of your own. And the very first concept we like to talk about is building a healthy habit that is achievable and is also meaningful. And now I know that life isn't always as difficult as it may seem. You know, it doesn't have to always be as important as as game 7 of the NBA playoffs. You know, it doesn't have to be on that level of pressure that you put onto yourself every single day. And so I find that if you have healthy habits and practices, you are always going to be calm and you're always going to be collected when times of pressure comes forth. And what I find is building healthy habits as it pertains to specifically taking care of yourself. So when you build habits like, for example, journaling, for example, taking a walk, for example, sketching, anything that I find that is output wise, where you create rather than when you input, that has a cathartic aspect to it. And I find that in my own personal life, if I manage to always come back to the habit of, for example, journaling, having that streamlined consciousness, thinking about whatever problem that I'm dealing with, and I find that if I always come back to that habit, that self-care practice, that habit of taking care of myself, because I know it's going to be a cathartic outlet, once I'm finished with that habit, life is going to feel a lot lighter. It's going to feel a lot less serious, and it's also going to feel a lot less inviting into whatever it is you are going towards. And to me, I always want to make sure that I am reset. You know, if I'm working hard, I have to make sure that I stop and I reset. And how I reset is making sure that I take care of myself. And how I take care of myself is building those healthy habits. Perhaps you can adopt some of these habits of your own. Again, I like to think about habits where you are actually outputting. So if you actually think of the habit of reading as a good habit for yourself, yes, it's a good habit on its own, but it's not a very good habit to have, because it's kind of like when you have a very busy day and you have a lot of things going on in your mind. Reading a book, like for example, like a nonfiction book, it's a lot to digest. And when you're trying to digest something, it's a lot more effort. And I really don't find that there's a cathartic outlet to digesting something and breaking it down. Rather, it's better to have a self-care habit like journaling, or even like stepping into a state of flow, like playing the guitar or going for a walk. Something like that might really feel a lot more uplifting once you finish that habit. And so the next concept I like to talk about is the rhythm of life. And so life has an ebb and flow, and there's always going to be seasons, and there are going to be busy seasons, and there are also going to be quiet seasons. There are going to be seasons where you have to put the foot on the gas pedal with no room for error. And also there are going to be seasons where you're just kind of looking around and you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like I need to do something in my life. And if you acknowledge that not every season is go, 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 and not every season is chill, 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 you're going to realize that, we can actually push for things a lot more optimally, because we're focused and we're fully embracing it, and we're just without resisting that we should be doing something else. For example, usually when it comes to December, there's the holiday period. Well, if you're living in the Western world, there is going to be a sense of holiday spirit in the air during the month of December. And this is where a lot of people have a lot of social gatherings. They have a lot of family gatherings, or they even have a lot of end of the year parties. So in general, your life is not going to be very focused on your fitness. It's not going to be very focused on your time alone, for example. And that's okay for that, because like I was mentioning, with life having its busy seasons and its quiet seasons, this is the busy season for specifically that social well-being part in your life. Now, if you are always thinking about, okay, I need to, let's say, for example, in general, you're a fitness person and you're always thinking about, I need to make sure that I get my runs in, I get my workouts in, I get my meals in. And this is exactly how I want to live my life. I want to live my life in this way, in a very regimented style. And you're going to realize that you're not going to be able to enrich your life in other aspects as well, because there's going to be a lot of commitment that you have done for yourself to focus on this one aspect of your life, your fitness. But so let's say, for example, you're thinking about your life, right? And if you think about it in the seasons, like what I was mentioning before, if you work up to having a busy season for your fitness, so you are on a training program, you're on a 16-week training program, you're working hard, you're training hard, you're lifting, you're running, you're eating right, and at the end of it, you should be tired. You should need to regroup. You should need to take your foot off the gas pedal. And so once you're finished with that, you've devoted 16 solid weeks of focused energy into your fitness well-being, your physical well-being. It's okay to take your foot off the gas pedal and focus on something else. Like when December comes about, when I was telling you before, where you have your social gatherings, you have your family gatherings, your commitments that you need to do. It's okay, because you can fully embrace those responsibilities, because you have already had 16 weeks, for example, in the past focusing on your fitness. So you don't really need to be thinking about your fitness too much. You can kind of relax on that side and then pour more focus and energy into this aspect into your life. And so it's very important that I find acknowledging that there's a rhythm in life. You can always think about life in quarters, for example, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and 4. So when you have all these quarters, maybe you think about, where can I improve in my life? Can I improve my life in terms of my social well-being in the first quarter? Maybe I should improve my social well-being in the first quarter. Maybe I should improve my physical well-being in the second quarter, maybe my mental well-being in the third, and then maybe my physical again on the fourth. Or it could be a mix of both, or it doesn't have to be so rigid in all of those time frames as well. You can create these time frames of your own. But what's important is to acknowledge that there are seasons, and there's always an ebb and flow in life. Next is practicing gratitude and reflection. So I'm all about setting goals for myself and making sure that I am doing whatever it takes to make sure I achieve my goal. And if that goal is laser focused onto being accomplished, sometimes, not saying everyone is, but sometimes there is going to be moments where you feel like I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm burning out. I feel like I can't go any farther. But if you just stop where you're at, look at your feet, look around, and look behind you, you can actually come to realize that you have gone so far. So let's say you are on a long run, right? Let's say you're running a 40-kilometer run, a 42-kilometer, like a marathon. And you're running, and this is the very first run you've ever did at this distance. And you're running along this way, and you're feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm going to give up. I can't do this anymore. I don't know. I don't know why am I doing this? Why am I contemplating even doing this in the first place? I got, for example, 30 kilometers in. I got like 12 more kilometers. I want to give up. But let's just try to pay attention to acknowledging our journey along this path, the training that we've done going up towards it. And then you just acknowledge that, okay, hey, I've already ran 30 kilometers. That's more than halfway. I've already trained so many months, so many days before, like leading up to this race or even this training run. I should be happy with where I'm at. I should be I should be content with where I'm at. And I'm grateful for the kind of person that I am to set on for a path as difficult as I am setting my eyes on, my life on. And I find that if you are always practicing gratitude and you're always practicing reflecting upon how far you've gone, you're always going to feel like, okay, I can be thankful for where I'm at. I don't need to be overwhelmed right now with what I need to do and where I need to be. I can stop, I can reset, and then I can go. You might find that you have that extra energy to kick in to finish that 12 kilometers like I was mentioning before. And I suppose this is the concept that is very important to me, especially when I'm thinking about setting a long-term goal. And when you set a long-term goal, you must always think about the halfway mark, the quarter mark, or even the three-quarter mark. Because if you're always thinking about the goal, you're never working on the process of growth and getting there and getting to be better. And sometimes it's true. You have to stop and smell the roses. And if you do stop and smell the roses, you'll find that you appreciate the little things in life, and you also appreciate how far you've gone. And being grateful for that might give you that little extra energy and extra kick to kind of push forward in the future. Last but not least, I would like to talk about self-talk and having a growth mindset, and also having the ability to be compassionate to yourself. Now, it's incredibly important that we are always talking to ourselves kindly. Now, I know a lot of you out there may be into the whole David Goggins, stay hard mentality, Kobe Bryant, mama mentality, no excuses, just go, making sure that you are doing whatever it takes to be maniacal and relentless to make sure that you reach your dream. I am all for that, don't get me wrong. But growth is a mindset, and being self-compassionate is a skill. And if you are unable to speak yourself kindly, if you're unable to accept that you can make mistakes, you are not going to be compassionate to yourself, and you're not going to be compassionate to other people when they need it from you. And when you talk to yourself in a manner where you are always scolding yourself, saying like, you can't do this, I can't believe you made this mistake, you are going to be very mean to yourself. For one, you're gonna be very toxic to yourself. And when you see other people suffering and they need that voice of encouragement, you're not gonna be that voice for them, because you're just gonna look at them and be like, I feel like you're a little bitch. I feel like you should be doing this. What's the matter with you? You should not be even doing that, because you are you're being weak right now. And sometimes if you don't talk to yourself kindly, you will also find that you don't talk to other people kindly as well. And I find this very personal in my own life, and perhaps you can also take it in your own life and see if you can apply it in any aspect of your life. But very important that you talk to yourself kindly, and growing with yourself is part of the process. And when you have that positive self-talk, you are always going to, one, be stronger, because you can acknowledge that you're human. You're able to make mistakes, and it's okay to be hard on yourself, but it's also okay to be accepting to yourself. So just to recap, we talked about 4 concepts, again looking at everything through a health and wellness perspective. The first concept is building a healthy habit. You want to build a healthy habit that improves your quality of life. And how I find helps best is making sure that you have a habit that enriches your life. And a habit that really helps me enrich my life is making sure that this habit is a self-care habit. Could be journaling, could be going for a walk, could be a place to reset, maybe some meditation, maybe play the guitar, whatever it is, it has to be enriching. The next concept is making sure that you acknowledge the rhythm of life, and that there's always going to be busy seasons to push, and there's always going to be quiet seasons to kind of put your foot off the gas pedal. Acknowledge that this is the season to push. Acknowledge that this season is the time to chill. Plan it however you like. I find that if you catch that rhythm, you catch that ebb and flow, your quality of life will for sure improve. Next, third concept, practicing gratitude and reflection. You got to stop and smell the roses. It's important that you do, because a lot of people always want to be better. They always want to improve. But sometimes you are that improved version already from 5 years ago. You're already that improved version from 1 year ago. Stop, smell the roses, acknowledge how far you've gone, have some practice of gratitude. You're going to realize that you can push a lot farther in the long term. Last but not least, encouraging yourself, employing a growth mindset, and also speaking to yourself kindly. Very important, because again, if you cannot speak to yourself kindly, it's going to be so difficult for you to speak kindly to other people. So these are the 4 concepts I like to think about to improve my life. You can employ any of these concepts in your own life. Again, I like to think about everything in a health and wellness perspective. Maybe you like to think about it differently. Let's learn from each other. I hope this is helpful. Stay tuned to the next one. See ya.